Hey everybody, it's Amanda again. Um, Ignore my coat. My husband likes to freeze me out of the house and I am cold. Anyway, after church today, well, kind of during church, I kind of came to me with different thoughts, but I've kind of noticed not just my experience in the past several weeks with a loss of family members, but there's been a lot of people and friends and other family members I have seen losing other family members in this past month or so. And it just seems kind of crazy, I guess. Of course, I know it's part of life, but it seemed to be more significant that, oh, this friend of mine just lost somebody. Oh, now this other friend just lost somebody. And it just felt like everything was kind of back to back to back. And it kind of got me thinking with things, even with my loss of my aunt this past, what's today? The 8th of December, so maybe 5 weeks ago. It was the beginning of November, and my aunt had passed. She was a huge part of our life. My life growing up, like I've had different people in my life like that I was really close to and had different connections with as a child, but she was one that continued into my adulthood. She took my kids in when I was in the military, and she has been a huge part of where I am now today in my life as well. And so she was always that person I could go to for, godly advice with how to deal with things and stuff in her wisdom that she had gone through in her life. Hold on. Stop it. Stop it. My dogs are going at it under my legs right now. So they, she was a huge important person in our life. And I have had loss. 1 second. Hey, wait. Okay, sorry about that. The tea kettle's screaming and that would have just got louder. Anyway, so she was always an important person in our life and in my boys' life. And I was a little, I guess, surprised that grief process for me, I figured getting home after everything's done and all the running around, that it would probably hit me more than it has. But then it got me thinking, because 8 years ago when we lost my brother, that actually is a big part of my testimony, and that whole situation, which I am currently working on writing a book about, because it is a lot of information and a lot of stuff that went on. But anyway, that loss of him actually is what kind of led me into my walk with Christ. And that process and that grief and everything that came, and how heavy, and I don't even know how to explain it at this point, but those feelings and that heaviness and the internal struggle back and forth, and the way I wanted to react to that situation, to what I felt I needed to, that was against what I would have normally dealt with it as. Like, there's a whole lot packed in that. But that sense of what happened there, granted the situations were different, but that loss is still a loss. And I remember the feelings going through that, as opposed to with my aunt, and how dramatically different it is. And granted, like, the situation's different. My aunt passed from cancer. My brother was murdered. However, despite that, that always leaves that emptiness and that hole, no matter how we lost somebody. And we got to figure out how to move forward in our life with that still there. And there is a verse that I had run across that actually kind of, I never really understood it, but I'm kind of in the thought process that maybe this is what that is. Maybe this is why it says that, because of that difference. And I only have that in relation to my experience with it. But the verse, it says 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 13 and 14. Mine is coming from the NLT version. One second. What are you doing in his kennel? You got your own. Sorry, I apologize again. Anyway, 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 14. And now, dear brothers and sisters, we want you to know what will happen to the believers who have died, so you will not grieve like people who have no hope. I'm going to pull that verse more apart, but for since we believe that Jesus died and was raised to life again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. So I guess really 13 is the one that kind of pulls a lot of that out. So I know my aunt was a believer. She is a big part of me and my walk with my faith as well. And I am now a believer. So I do hold that comfort in knowing we will see her again and all of that. But when everything happened with my brother, it's not that I didn't believe God was real, but I wasn't living that. I didn't know what that really meant. And to kind of break or run across that verse and break it down to how that is even a thing, I have that experience, I guess, now with that comparison from my brother and my aunt, that those are both two huge holes in my life that I have. But the process of where I was when my brother had died to where my aunt is, and having that hope in Christ now, that grief process is much different. And I found that really interesting. So I just kind of wanted to jump on and share that little tidbit. I don't know if any of you have ever felt that. I know each person is different. The grief process is always different depending on the relationship and the different people as well. But that sense of she's gone, I don't have her to talk to anymore, which I do feel that, but it's not as heavy and burdensome as things were when I lost my brother. But I find it a blessing that I know where she was. She knew where she was going, and she held that all the way to the end. And knowing her faith also helped me know, I know she's where she is. I believe that, but knowing she also believed that and held to that, it was very inspiring, I guess, to see that. But it just kind of makes me think, like, maybe that's what that means, because I also hold that hope, not just her, but because we both had that hope in Christ. And I wonder if that's the difference, or what this is trying to describe there with that grief, and that we don't grieve in the same manner as if not having that hope in Christ like we both held. And so I just found that interesting. I just figured I'd pop on and share. But if you guys have any tidbits or any processes of that you have gone through, or that you've noticed with things like that, or how God has come through and provided that comfort to you and things like that, I would love to hear them. So anyway, have a great Sunday and have a blessed day.